All right, good morning. Happy Firearms Friday, everybody. Let's get a cup of coffee, tuck in, and let's do some DGUs. I apologize. It's Friday. I really like that opening music. Oh, what? Why? Computer, come on now. Let me see if that fixes it. Oh, okay. Looks like I got a frozen camera. Let's see if it doesn't boot back up for me after I run a little extra power through it. I'm gonna boom. Okay, it's gonna be one of those mornings, I see. So, well, we'll just give that a minute, and I'll say good morning to some people. Looks like Fish and Golf got first blood this morning. I see Uncle Steve, and I see Trish is there. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. All right, let me try this one more quick. There we go. There we go. It's pointed the wrong way, but there it is. Da, 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 da. So you got a little CLP on the desk right behind me there. Boom. Oh. There, CLP. If you know, you know. All right. And Maul says, do not feel sorry for Sergeant Major. The freezer is full. And Danny, there's nothing wrong with focus. That I really am that fuzzy. So, let's see what let's take a look at this first DGU. Photos, masked counter-protester arrested after stopping and shooting at Free Palestine rally and march in Eugene. Oh dear. Looks like there's an update even. According to Lane County jail records, the counter-protester who was arrested has been identified as Jonathan James Wisby, age 51, who was charged with first-degree menacing, second-degree disorderly conduct, and bias crime in the first degree. This sounds like it might be a bad okay, this might be interesting. DSM has been made aware that this encounter did, in fact, lead to injury. We have been told that a protester was trampled on and broke their leg as marchers jumped over construction barricades and ran for cover. They were reportedly in surgery, and we are awaiting further updates on their condition. And I assume that the writers here are using they in the singular because they're gender-bended sociopaths. On October 21st, over 200 community members came together for a Free Palestine rally and march that started at the Federal Building. The march started about an hour later after a few speeches on the courthouse steps. Okay. But I'm not a big y'all know I just read the headlines. I don't read the articles before we do these. I didn't want to talk about Middle East stuff today, but just let me put a point on this. You know, I'm not a big Zionist. I'm not a big proponent for Israel. But neither am I a big opponent of Israel. I kind of look at the whole Israel situation and say, you know, it's not my shit. But the Free Palestine protesters, let me be very clear to you guys. You are supporting terrorism. The Free Palestine protesters are pro-Hamas. Okay? That is, if we were to elect a bunch of Democrats, you know, the KKK, to lead the United States in government through a legitimate election, that would be the political equivalent of what Hamas is as an entity. They are a professional terrorist organization that ran for and won office. So don't ever forget that. So I'm probably about to look at this story and find that the firearms that the guy with the gun was actually acting in bad form in a tough situation and probably made poor choices where there were no good choices to make. And those things are going to be true because he was faced with a crowd of terrorists. Because let me be very clear, BLM is pro-Hamas. And separate from that fact, they are also terrorists. They are the people that threw firebombs at the White House on May 29th of 2020, and people don't talk about it. Right? You hear everybody and his brother go on about the terrible insurrection on January 6th. Did any of the MAGA protesters on January 6th burn down an historic American church? Because that's a thing that happened. And nobody has been charged for that. So, the article goes on. The march started about half an hour later after a few speeches. A half hour into the march, as the crowd walked south on Pearl Avenue, a white GMC Sierra 2500 pickup truck sporting multiple right-wing flags, including the Gadsden, suddenly pulled into the intersection of East 8th Avenue and Pearl Street. The Gadsden flag is not a right-wing flag. It is an American flag. Same thing with the Gonzales flag. It is an American flag. Firearms ownership and a support for the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution is not a right-wing position. It is a reasonable, intelligent, and American position. Opponents of your right to keep and bear arms are opponents of your right to be secure in your person, property, and papers. They're opponents of your right to be free from an overbearing government, and they are opponents of your right to survive. Of the right to merely be alive. Right? You know, I crack a joke about how for some of us, the Second Amendment is an important protection for our right to the pursuit of happiness as well. Because I don't know when the last time y'all bought a gun was, but that's a damn good day for me. I like to buy guns. It makes me happy. But these pieces of shit including the Gadsden, suddenly pulled into the intersection of East 8th and Pearl Street, blocking the march. As the march approached, a tire was reportedly slashed, and the driver, wearing a Guy Fawkes-type mask, pulled a handgun as he exited the truck. He quickly turned to the rear and began firing several shots that sounded like compressed air. Okay, so the marchers, it looks like the marchers slashed one of his tires. Two individuals within the march rushed to the front, drew their own handguns, and ordered the man to immediately drop his weapon and take off his mask, to which he complied. After doing so, he took off his mask. As the two individuals kicked the now unmasked man's weapon away, Eugene police officers rushed in with weapons drawn. The two individuals were interviewed on the scene, and the counter-protester was arrested with charges pending. In their press release, EPD said that the weapon was a splatterball gun. Okay, so bad form. I'll give you this bad form. It sounds like he went in with a toy gun. A splatterball gun is, it's kind of like a water gun. It's like a water pistol, squirt gun. Excuse me. But they had these little gel balls that you pour water over, and they soak up the water, and they turn into basically miniature sticky water balloons. So he basically went to make some noise and be obnoxious against some protesters, and the protesters slashed his tires and drew firearms on him. I'm gonna say this is a fuck around and find out situation where the guy did something stupid. But you'll notice that it says that the two individuals were interviewed on the scene. So after he had fired the toy gun with the splatter balls in it, these guys ran up and slashed his tires and drew actual firearms. And they're not facing any charges at all. There was a case recently. I forget the names involved, but there was a case quite recently where three black men who were playing basketball were pestered by a young white guy with a splatterball gun like this. And he shot one of them with the splatterball gun. The three black men chased the one white kid down and stomped him to death. They were all acquitted on the grounds of self-defense. Okay. If you were telling me that the kid drew a splatterball gun that looked like a real weapon, and one of the brothers on the basketball court drew his own pistol and fired first, that would sound like a reasonable response, right? If you see what appears to be a real weapon, that would seem to be a reasonable response. You draw your weapon and return fire. Return fire first. Okay. And then it's discovered that it's a toy that happens to be a very realistic looking toy. Now that's one thing. In the press conference where the sheriff and the arresting officers described the incident, they showed the toy. It was bright blue and orange and white, oversized, and shaped like the toy version of a futuristic space gun, phaser type of gun. It was clearly and obviously, at a glance, not a firearm. And then the three black men chased this young boy down and kicked and stomped and beat him to death, crushing his skull and many of his ribs. They murdered him. But they were acquitted on grounds of self-defense. In this story right here, ain't nothing funny here now. In this story right here, it sounds like a guy did a stupid thing, and then a bunch of Democrat activists did illegal things, and they don't even get a slap on the wrist. They don't even get a slap on the wrist. That is not the kind of story I was hoping to start today with. Let's see if we can do better on this one. Armed man scares off North Carolina supermarket shooter. A gunman was chased away by an armed bystander after he opened fire outside a supermarket in North Carolina. Mirza Zukanovic. This isn't the same. No, we didn't cover this one before. I don't think. Okay. Mirza Zukanovic is 35, is accused of shooting at two people Saturday night following a domestic dispute at the Lowe's Foods parking lot in Wake Forest Crossing. As Zukanovic fired at the duo, a bystander who has a license to carry a weapon drew his own pistol and fired at the gunman. Zukanovic then fled, but was impaired while driving and crashed his car just minutes later nearby Stadium Drive. Zukanovic was taken into custody without further incident and charged with 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, discharging firearm in the city limits, driving while impaired, no operator's license. We did cover this one because that guy right there is, yeah, we covered this one before. The local hero, who was not publicly identified, shot the would-be robber in the leg twice, leading the suspect to flee into the woods, where he was arrested by police. Oh, looks like we got another one from the New York Post. Let's see how this one goes. Armed bystander stops attempted robbery at Georgia fast food joint. There's some video here.
New at 10, a quick draw at a...
Let's see if they've got the... They don't have the security video. Okay, it's just video generally. They don't actually have the security footage of the gunplay. That's a pity. Police in Georgia say a bystander stepped in and shot a would-be robber at a fast food restaurant. 57-year-old man tried to rob the manager of a Zaxby's in Alpharetta, but a man who had just pulled in to order some food also had a gun. I'm glad somebody was there to help the people who could have been a victim, customer Shamira Bates told the TV station. The attempted armed robbery happened at closing time Sunday night. Police said that as the manager was leaving, an armed man approached him in the parking lot and tried to rob him. An independent witness observed the robbery in process and intervened in the robbery and shot the suspect after the suspect pointed his firearm at the witness and the victim. Alpharetta Police Lieutenant Andrew Splawn. What? Ooh. Hey, LT Splawn. I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. That's a rough one. When police are, that's almost like having the last name like Guzzler or Showers and joining the Navy. You're welcome. When police arrived on the scene, they set up a perimeter to search for the suspect who had fled into the woods. Okay, those are not hypotheticals, by the way. These are people that I've personally met. Just throwing that out there. When officers located the suspect, they found he had 2 bullet wounds to his leg. The suspect was rushed to the hospital and will face a number of charges, including armed robbery, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon when he's discharged. I wish Cameron were here and we could talk about that a little bit, but I'm not going to steal his thunder. Not today. Police said the bystander with the gun will not be charged. No, he should be commended. Y'all want to see this whole country turn around a hell of wicked fast? We need to supply our police officers with challenge coins. Right? The police arrive on scene, and you are the armed bystander standing over the quickly cooling corpse of a criminal who was stopped in the act by you, the lawfully armed citizen, and had to be stopped by you, the lawfully armed citizen, because the police cannot do it. They are incompetent. Now, that's not entirely their fault. The fact of the matter is that once an incident begins, right, you can't call the police before the incident begins. You don't know to. Once the incident has begun, you still haven't called the police. The incident is ongoing, and now the police have been called. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or God forbid you're in Uvalde, and the police are still not there. The incident has resolved one way or the other by the time they arrive. When they show up, they get to take witness statements and maybe pursue a criminal. But if the police arrive to find the cooling corpse of the recently resolved, they should have challenge coins. Good Citizens Award, right? Yeah. They should hand you a challenge coin. Just like you get from your sergeant major, your battalion commander, right? And you carry that son of a bitch in your pocket and drop it on the bar to get a free drink every now and then. There you go. Georgia law allows a person to use reasonable force to protect themselves or a third party when they believe an individual or themselves is going to suffer serious bodily harm or death. Spallon said, "We do believe this is going to be a defensive third-party incident, so at this time we don't anticipate any charges for the witnesses." That right there. He says, Georgia law allows a person to use reasonable force to protect themselves or a third party. I despise that language. You have the God-given right to do what is correct. For the law to be so presumptuous as to assume that it can grant to you the right to defend life, liberty, and property is morally offensive. What the law should say is the government has no authority to intervene or restrict your right to life, liberty, or property. At most, the government can be expected to serve to protect your life, liberty, and property. That's why we don't need to ban abortion. Murder is already illegal. Just enforce the actual law. So let's get one more, and then I got to get on the road. Livermore gun store owner shoots, kills robbery suspect armed with hammer. Oh, we did this one. Well, damn it. We did that one. We did that one last Friday, I think. I think maybe the forums that I've been reading lately have started getting a little thin on the story. So I'm gonna have to go find some additional sources for these armed citizen stories in the future, because that's two repeats, two retreads. We don't need all that. So I'll try to find more original content for next week. So, all right, we're going into the weekend. Is it daylight savings this weekend? I think it's daylight savings time this weekend. Is that right? Is it time to set the clocks? It's time to change the clocks this weekend. Yes. So remember to set your clocks on Sunday, and try not to oversleep and be late to work on Monday. It is, God, guys, 2023 is almost over. Like, I know some of you sociopaths out there already have your Christmas trees up. Without going into too much detail on the good news, I do not intend to put a Christmas tree up this year in this house, or ever again for that matter. So things are looking up and moving forward. I want y'all to be safe out there this weekend. Don't drive drink. Don't fry your bacon naked. And we love you. We will see you on Monday.